You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello there and welcome to Force 13 Live. My name is Nathan Foy here in the studio and we are covering Cyclone Mocha, which is headed towards the coast of the Bay of Bengal region. Myanmar is the expected place for a landfall as we get on towards the later part of this week into the weekend. I have a team with me and we'll be talking about all that is to talk about regarding this cyclone. And as you can see, we have this big dashboard which is chock full of content, and using parts of our automated stream which is running all the time. So once we finish our stream today, you'll be able to look at that. And of course, many different vantage points, satellite imagery, and well, in my view, this storm is looking pretty damn good. I'm joined by two of our members from India, which is useful. We have Soham and Trin. Hello to both of you.
Hello, good evening.
Evening.
Good evening to everyone.
Now, this storm looking decent. 60 miles per hour is what it says on that screen, but Soham, I believe you amended that, or rather updated that number.
That is correct, yeah.
Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, to start off, the storm actually JTWC has been slightly behind on the storm's overall evolution. For example, when advanced scatometer ASCAT passed and found winds of 40 knots on the what do we call it, the weaker side of the storm, which had relatively little convection. It found winds for at least 40 knots on that side, and the joint typhoon warning center, I think, was barely 35 still at that point. So based on that, the storm has continued to organize. I believe just now the USA's satellite analysis branch, or SAB, has gone T4.0 on subjected DORAC, which is the equivalent of, I believe it's the equivalent of 65 knots.
Yep.
Then microwave imagery, which is the Advanced Microwave Sounder, AMSU, for short, got a pass of 77 knots.
Oh my goodness.
But AMSU's bias correction wasn't exactly up to standards, because the radius of maximum winds, which is the area where you have the strongest winds around a storm, was underestimated, meaning it was too small compared to reality.
Right.
So the real intensity is somewhat slightly lower. I believe SATCON, which is the satellite consensus, is nearing 60 knots. So in keeping with that, I have upgraded the storm to 60 knots at 12 p.m. UTC. 60 knots would be 70 miles per hour.
You've upgraded the storm to 70 miles per hour, which is 112 kilometers per hour. So this storm really wrapping up, and it's been quite impressive how it's been tightening up over the last. I commented on it. Well, I was going to comment on it on last night's tropical weather bulletin, but technical failures plagued us yet again. So it was noticeable last night, but especially right now, it's really evolving, isn't it?
Yeah. Compared to last night, where the storm was under rather high shear, moderate easterly shear, it's lessened a little bit as the storm has gradually moved northwards, and the storm started producing a more centralized convection around around 24 hours ago, and since then data T values on Dvorak have slowly creeped up. I believe they are now hovering between 3.5 and 4.0, or between 55 and 60. So that was another factor that aided in making a relatively simple intensity fix.
Here's the latest forecast from the GFS, and you can see there that it develops a storm quite quickly and becomes a very powerful cyclone on its approach to the coast of Myanmar, making landfall there as a strong Category 4, that would be. And that would be late overnight on the 14th into the 15th. What day is that? That would be Sunday night into Monday morning. And you can see the shape of the storm there. Would you say that this GFS is a worst case scenario, or are other models on board with this?
Well, GFS actually GFS is actually running a little on the more real on the lower side actually. A few runs.
Gee,
It was
earlier,
predicting
yeah.
it was predicting it was predicting on mid 940s, and I believe I pointed it out last night in privately that the storm was stalling in development around Friday and Saturday local time, because the shear vector was coming from the east. The source of shear was from the east, but the storm was moving. So that's a 90-degree angle that maximizes total shear it's going to receive. So that forces the storm that would in reality force the storm to slow down, or maybe even slightly weaken. However, past Friday, or around end of Saturday, the environment dramatically improves as the storm starts turning north, and its poleward outflow links up with the subtropical jet stream, which I believe GFS has modeled decently strong. I think 160 or so knots was what the jet stream speed was. So that coupled with the very good thermodynamics of the region, which is high sea surface temperatures,
Yes.
would be more than enough for the storm to rapidly intensify. So I can't rule out any rapid intensification. In this latest run, however, I think the GFS has gotten something a little off. I'm looking at the soundings, and it's trying to intensify the storm to the shear phase as well, which should happen.
Yes, I did notice that as well. I just want to point out here, these are the rainfall estimates for the storm on the GFS forecast as well, calling for maximums of about 13 inches. That's just over 300 millimeters of rainfall on top of what's already occurring. I'm not sure if there is a lot of precipitation along the coast right now, but this is from this point forward through the forecast period there, up to possibly 13 inches inland and along the coast. The very highest amount staying offshore, as you would expect, really, because especially if the storm makes landfall further north there towards Cox's Bazar, it looks like, you would expect perhaps that it would peak and then start to weaken a little bit before landfall, right?
Yeah, most storms generally tend to do that. Like shear should increase again just before landfall. So maybe some slight weakening before landfall. Also, because I believe the Arakan Mountains are I don't remember the exact name of the mountain range. I think it's Arakan. The Arakan Neom. I don't remember the exact
Yes,
mountain
it's
range.
Arakan.
Yeah, it's there's a mountain range there just past the coast on that side of in the Rakhine state in Myanmar. So that would also land interaction with that would also play a role in its slight weakening.
Now, Soham, you're much further south in India, but you are native of Kolkata, and that's where Trin actually is still. Trin, you're closest to the storm right now, and you're just on the edge of the JTWC wind cone, believe it or not. I doubt you'll get any storm conditions, but what's your take on the storm right now?
Well, first of all, the storm is going to affect a very populated, densely populated area because if you see the recent GFS run and the GFS targeted the area slightly north of the landfall area, which is currently situated. It landed the cyclone on Chittagong, which is home of world's largest refugee camp. About 7 lakh refugee or 700,000 refugees live there. So it will be a disaster if that cyclone landed there. And also, the cyclone forecasted by JTWC is very near to major cyclone, and there's a great possibility of that it might ended up with a major cyclone landfall. And you see that in the history of Myanmar does not face many tropical cyclones, only 5% or something like that. So uh, it will be a extensive disaster for the state, and specifically Rakhine state where hundred of thousand Rohingya lives there. So, and due to the Arakan Yoma
Uh,
rains, the rainfall potential will be also very large, about 300 to 400 millimeter, which the model is predicting. Sure.
yeah, I'm not sure how many viewers are aware, but you should probably know that Myanmar doesn't exactly have the best political situation right now.
Yes, that's the main
So this the storm hitting that area comes at a pretty particularly bad time.
exactly. That is.
The JTWC are forecasting a 110 mile per hour landfall, high end category 2. From what you were saying earlier, so you think that might be a bit low?
Considering the conditions forecast, the JTWC is just doing the best it can at the moment. The storm can definitely go higher. If it can definitely go higher. The conditions, but considering everything, they're just doing the best they can here. So I think 95 is fine for now for the time.
Let me grab their prognostic reasoning, and whilst I take a look at what they've got to say, so perhaps you could help us get some of the info from the IMD. So in fact, is this a new update now? I don't know if this is that cone up to date on the right
No,
hand
the
side.
latest time of issue. No,
There's
the
the new
latest cone is
cone.
still from
There
6
it is.
6 a.m. UTC.
Yep,
Oh,
there's the
is
new
it?
cone just come out. So they are now calling for still 95 knot landfall there, so still very much the same, and they are currently giving it 60 miles per hour. But let me
Who?
just.
IMD or JTWC?
That's the JTWC there. And just to read out some
Ah,
of their info: satellite analysis, initial position, and intensity discussion. I thought they were going to say something then, but it's just a headline. Animated enhanced infrared satellite imagery shows a symmetrical and consolidating system with rain bands wrapping tighter and interlocking towards the cold, dense overcast with increased overshooting cloud tops. Basically, exactly what we've been looking at in the last few hours on this. The initial position is placed with high confidence based on a defined microwave eye in the 1133Z image. I think that's the one that you showed us earlier before we went on the air.
yeah. If you want, I can just hold. No, hold on.
Yeah, please
I
show it if you
My
can.
streaming capabilities are rather poor at the
Oh
moment, but
gosh.
I can share a picture. But I can share a picture right now of the current state.
Okay then. We'll take a look at that whenever we can.
Actually, it's uploading right now.
Oh. The initial intensity is assessed with medium confidence based on overall assessment of agency and automated Dvorak estimates reflecting the 6-hour structural improvement, and it certainly has improved. Here's the image in question. Well, that's just satellite, isn't it?
Yeah. Hold on. You need a microwave imagery as well, right? Hold on.
Yeah, I just want to try and give some context to what they were talking about with that microwave image. I did see it earlier that you sent in. Um,
Yeah, I'm sending it now.
so analysis indicates a favorable environment with a moderate vertical wind shear offset by moderate radial outflow and warm SSTs in the Bay of Bengal. Basically, the storm's pushing itself out there and it's fighting pretty well against wind shear at the moment.
There we go.
And let's not forget those sea surface temperatures around about 32 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, the Bay of Bengal is currently the highest temperature wise anywhere in the planet right now.
Man, that's probably true. There's that microwave image looking pretty decent with that microwave eye. That's no exaggeration at all. So, yeah, and you can quite clearly see it, to be honest, on visible as well, this eye feature. And
Yeah, I
when
believe
you
we call it a banding eye.
when you see that kind of thing, you know that Category 1 is probably not far behind. So,
I expect it to reach there in like 12 hours.
even though
I
you're
don't.
currently going with 70 miles per hour, which would imply much sooner.
Yeah, yeah. I'm taking into account the fact that the storm has, in all likelihood, suffered a dry intrusion right now. If you notice carefully, in latest imagery, infrared in particular, the southern side is the only one with significant convection right now. The northern side has had a few issues with the convection, mainly because of dry.
Yes, I
Though
see.
I do, yeah,
Convective cloud tops have been tempered quite a lot there on that northern side.
yeah. Though like all dry intrusions, that's temporary.
Some forecast discussion then
Though
for
I
pardon?
sorry.
For Cyclone Mocha, according to the JTWC, it'll track more northeastward under the steering ridge for the remainder of the forecast, making landfall just south of the Bangladesh-Myanmar border around 66 hours, they say. The favourable conditions will fuel gradual intensification to 90 knots at 48 hours and to a peak of 100 knots just before landfall, so they are actually saying that. That's category 3,
Oh,
by the way. Afterwards, interaction with the rugged terrain and increasing vertical wind shear will rapidly erode the system towards dissipation by the end of 5 days. Numerical models in tight agreement with a gradual and even spread to 122 by 72 hours. I don't know what that means. 122 what?
could you repeat that? I didn't catch that.
I don't understand what they're saying there. Numerical models are in
Maybe
tight
you could
agreement with a
repeat it again.
gradual and even spread to 122, maybe nautical miles by 72 hours, lending high confidence to the forecast up to that point. Yep, so after that, the model envelope spreads out more unevenly. This, plus the uncertainties of land passage, lend low confidence to the extended portion of the track forecast. So there we go. That's pretty much.
Maybe I should read it myself and take a look.
That's pretty much
Maybe I can
everything
make
from
sense of it.
them there. Let's see if we can. We are happy to take comments and questions, by the way, during our stream. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, and if you know people who are in the path of the storm, please direct them to our stream. Hopefully we can do a decent job providing the information. Of course, we will be here for the whole duration of the storm in at least the automated format with our automated stream live tracker, which you'll be redirected to after we're finished here, and regular commentary streams and video updates. Okay then, as a matter of fact, YouTube just crashed briefly there. I'm trying to get some comments. There was one or two earlier. Azrul says, will Mocha hit a sparsely populated area? I can tell you right now that the population inside the 34 knot winds, 10% chance. I can't even remember how much it is. It's a lot. It's in the tens of millions. I think it's nearly 20 million. So there's a lot. There are a lot of people involved. Not as much as if it was further north towards Bangladesh. But we're still talking about 10 to 20 million people with significant gale force wind chances. SRB 12 has a question. Well, actually, I'm not sure what that question means. They're just making a comment there that you saw Rye downgrade their peaks, but Rye turned to Category 5. I think they're talking about how forecasts have been downtrending a little bit, but
No, actually, I think I know what they're talking about. Back when JTWC did their first best track reanalysis for 2021, they assessed Super Typhoon Rai as a peak of 150 knots. Recently, like 2-3 weeks back, they revised their best track intensity and downgraded Rai from 150 knots to 145 knots. Now both of them are still in Category 5, so I think that's what they're talking about.
Interesting. I'm not sure how that relates to this storm, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's related.
All right. Cyclone Mocha, the first named cyclone of the season. I don't know if you've got any candidates for potential previous cyclones to this in the Indian Ocean this season so far. There was a rain.
We do actually, but we'll keep that for later on, post-season.
There was a rainmaker that struck Sri Lanka, I remember earlier on.
Yeah.
But the main crux of this right now is that the storm is moving pretty much northwards and quite slowly at the moment, and it will start to accelerate again and turn northeasterly fairly soon. It's certainly growing in size. You can clearly see on that satellite imagery right there that it has grown quite a lot in just that 12-hour period, I think that is.
It's also worth noting that convection has become notably more center-based than banding-based, if you notice carefully.
And you also mentioned before we went on the air that I don't know who reported it, but you said there were reports of lightning in the eye wall.
Not eye wall, around the eye. On visible imagery on Himawari 9 detected lightning as the sun was setting.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think there was any in the eye wall. I don't think.
Okay.
No, it was on the outer band.
All right then, interesting.
Yeah, outer bands.
Jello Cruise, if I pronounced that correctly, does it still have a chance to not reach major equivalent hurricane status, Category 3? Well, that's what the JTWC are calling for now, so I would say it's getting quite likely. The IMD, what are they saying?
The IMD, I believe, as of their latest bulletin, is 85 knots, which is 85 to 90, which is mid-range Cat 2, I guess, in 1 minute sustained winds.
Close.
Also, it's worth pointing out. I need to point this out.
Yep.
This is actually a change in their outlook from like 12 hours back. 12 hours back, the IMD cone expected to weaken to 65 knots from an 80-knot peak. They expected to weaken to 65 knots at landfall in Myanmar. But their latest cone has completely changed direction, and they now wanted to maintain at 85 knots all the way to landfall.
Yeah, significant change in their track.
Once again, just grabbing another element from our automated stream interface, which is running in the background there. You can see on the right-hand side some of the Force 13 website floaters as well, where you can see the progress of the storm in the last few hours. There's also radar, although you can't see very much going on there. It's just catching one or two of the outer bands from Indian radar there. And there's the view further north.
Yeah, I think that's also outdated. I think I recall looking into this website and noting that that latest animated frames are not being generated at the moment.
Ah, really?
Yeah,
Damn.
unfortunately.
I'll just double check that. But you can monitor all of that yourself on the Force 13 website. Just go to the satellite page. A few more questions that came in earlier. Super Typhoon Tracker says, what are we expecting that Mocha will peak at intensity-wise? At the moment, it looks like Category 4 is a distinct possibility.
It's a distinct possibility, but I've chosen to remain on the safe side and go with a mid-range Cat 3,
Yep,
like 105, 110 knots.
yep. And Mohammed says, can Mocha pick can it reach Category 5 and make landfall between Barishal to Cox's Bazar as a Category 5? Unlikely, but not impossible.
Would need some things to go right. For example, it needs to hold itself together better than most models expect it to. For one, during the high shear phase around 5 years. Secondly, the jet has to be pretty strong. Maybe around and the jet has to be pretty strong. And three, the storm has to already have a well-defined core by that time to undergo any sort of extreme rapid intensification up to that point. All these questions remain to be answered as of right now.
So yeah, just confirming that most of the radar there is broken, except that Bay of Bengal view that we just had on before. That's actually still working. We had another comment. Oh no, that was just SRB12 says, another question. Last night I saw the forecast called a Category 3 peak. Then the next day it went to Category 2, but this stream it's back to Category 3 and why? That may just be...
I think this is our first stream.
Sorry?
I think this is our first stream on the storm, right? Apart from the automated streams?
But the automated stream had its forecasts earlier and it depicted only Category 2 peaks, but it was quite difficult to establish because it's still getting clearer over time how much time it will spend over water, and I think it was underestimating that earlier, which is why it only went for a Category 2 peak. I think now it's a little bit more likely to spend more time over water, and the way it's intensifying already now, which it wasn't doing yesterday, lends more confidence that it will reach Category 3 status.
Also, I should probably point out, look at the poleward outflow. Can you see it? It's expanding.
It is very expansive. The whole region around the storm.
You can see the upper level cirrus clouds just speeding away to the northwest on that frame. See if you look carefully. That's a sign of a rather good upper level environment.
Yeah, and even especially on that satellite imagery, more flare-ups away from the storm along the western coast of India, even and over Indochina.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get an updated satellite.
A curious question from Bitsa, who wants to know when my birthday is. I'm afraid you missed it. It's a few months ago. Cat Horse says, this could easily be one of the worst storms of all time if it's Myanmar and Bangladesh at Category 4 intensity, considering how poor and densely populated those areas are. Our thoughts entirely. It has the potential to be a very dangerous storm.
We generally don't go into details like that because of sensitivity, but the issue is that the ground reality of the situation is that there are problems on the ground. I don't think the administration is functioning as effectively as it normally would otherwise, especially in that region. or one can only hope at this point that they're preparing ahead of time for the storm. At least when I looked ahead of the stream, we were looking at the Myanmar website, the weather service website,
Yeah.
and they did seem to have warnings ready.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. It could be an enormous humanitarian problem. Um, one, I don't know if it's good news or whatever, but we are looking at 12 inches of rainfall, whereas a storm like this, potentially, and if it wasn't moving so quickly, could have produced a lot more. Of course, we're already
There
almost
is
saying that in
one
past
problem
tense,
though.
but of course, rain rate is an
There is
issue.
just one problem. And also the size. The storm is huge. It's almost covering like more than half of the entire Bay of Bengal, just in influence.
Hmm.
So having such a large size will also drive up storm surge, and it will also drive up rainfall rates, irrespective of how fast the storm is moving.
Just gonna take a look at some info on Myanmar in general right now. As mentioned earlier on, there are over 1 million internally displaced people in the northwest of the country, 1.8 million across the whole country. So we're already in a bit of a, well, yeah, humanitarian
Bad
crisis there
scenario.
before the cyclone arrives.
Yeah, this has been ongoing for like more than 5 years, I think. Just because uh, the world, while world media doesn't pay as much attention to it, sadly anymore, it's still ongoing, and that's the ground reality.
Do you have
I
information on preparedness actions there?
I've been searching like Myanmar Met Service.
Preparedness section, I don't have any for Myanmar, but there's some warning issued, like warning number 2 for the Bangladesh coastal ports of the coastal, and also there's some preparedness take by
There,
the chief
there
minister of.
actually is.
Mm.
There is actually the department. All it says in the website is people should watch the forecast and make necessary preparations.
Well, that's
And they
helpful.
also say they also point out people should be aware of strong wind, heavy rain, flash flood, and landslide in hilly areas near small rivers, and also domestic flights, trawlers, vessels, and ships off along the Myanmar coast should be aware of everything. They say they're saying maximum wind speed may reach 90 to 100 between it's a little hard to pronounce, but it's near Sitwe.
Yeah, that location in the southeast,
Uh,
I take it.
hmm, uh,
Kiakpiu?
any other question? Yeah, that's the place. It's hard to pronounce for me.
And I probably got it wrong as well, I'm just guessing. Sarkar says, is an eye forming out? Certainly is.
At the moment, yes, there is signs of an inner core forming on microwave imagery, and visible imagery has also shown signs of a banding eye organizing. So it does
Yeah.
have a formative inner core, but you should still expect organization to be gradual because of the shear that's going to continue to affect the storm for another 2 days or 2.5 days.
And SRB with they say a final question. The track of Mocha forecast, liken it basically to the 1991 cyclone, but south of that track. I mean, I guess
In
that
that
it's.
case, 1991, I think a better track forecast would be the 1994 storm.
Oh
I think that
yes,
was slightly more south than 1991.
a forgotten storm, that one, the 1994 storm. and a question as to whether rapid intensification is commencing on latest satellite imagery. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh,
I don't think there's any
like
rapid
if generally a rule of thumb is that if you have a full if you have a full ring, if you have a fully closed ring on microwave imagery, you should generally assume rapid intensification is underway. Considering the northeast quadrant is still not organized, I wouldn't I wouldn't call rapid intensification ongoing just yet.
Dan Graham says preparedness in Bangladesh is world class since the 1991 disaster. There's a huge network of cyclone
Yeah,
shelters and volunteers called Cyclone
that
Preparedness
I
Program.
be- I believe it's more since CIDR, not 1991, since 2007 when CIDR happened. They have massively upscaled their
Yeah.
preparation plans since then.
Bangladesh is such a vulnerable area, very low lying ground. Although in this instance, I don't think it's. I think the Ganges River Delta should get away with it. I mean, it's a dangerous thing to
We'll
say,
still
I
get
know,
some
but
rough seas.
it does look like it will be
As
quite a bit further south.
either way, the IMD has already said that the IMD has already noted that practically the entire Sundarbans coast must have total suspension of all shipping operation.
Well, yeah, there's not really anywhere for a ship to go, is there?
And there should be no fisherman activity. People should not go out swimming during this time.
Yeah. Perry Lim wants to know whether we'll see a super cyclone Mocha or whether it will become a Category 5.
Too early to say.
A small chance. Earlier models were saying things like that. At the moment, is it just the HWRF that's calling for that? Like it always does. HWRF has
Yeah, the HW
Category
is
5.
904 millibars. Then
Very
again,
strong.
I do remember some discussion taking place among the more knowledgeable people that the HWRF doesn't exactly sim the Bay of Bengal very well because of extremely high sea surface temperatures it has.
That they are.
So I would take the HWRF with a grain of salt.
Yep. That they are. Around 31, 32 degrees Celsius underneath this storm right now. Real hot spot. I think is just slightly east of the storm's centre. And temperatures up towards land, I think, are still around 29, 30 degrees Celsius. So, very good conditions heat-wise ahead of this storm.
Yeah, thermodynamics wise, this is a prime area for intensification. So if this storm commences rapid intensification, I fear for Myanmar. Hopefully, if it does, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully shear ends up being higher than forecast. Or maybe the upper level anticyclone that's shearing the storm moves closer and shears it even harder. That's the most you can hope for right now, because there are no good options otherwise. Every single place in the cone of uncertainty is a highly vulnerable area.
Yep. People mentioning other models right now, so what I'm going to do is show the view. Oh dear, it's gone above everything.
Yeah, I just saw ECMWS 932 millibars.
Yeah, let's take a look at all these models then right now and show you what's going on. So that's the latest GFS run. We already saw that earlier on our graphics, but you can see there
GFS seems to initialize well.
Sorry?
GFS seems to initialize pretty well. Does that say 982?
982.
Yeah, we have 983.
And there it goes, intensifying a lot, and off it goes into the 920s, and a landfall very close to Cox's Bazar at around 929. Extremely powerful there. GFS has done that a few times. let's take a look at the ECMWF then. This is 6Z, there's that 932 peak. So how fast does that intensify? As a matter of fact, a lot of it is quite soon, into the 950s there by the time we get to Friday night, Saturday morning.
Yeah, that seems more like a jet interaction induced rapid intensification.
Yep, and up it goes
That's
into the
you tend to see that sort of intensification.
940s and then 950 and then 932. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me. So I'm not sure about that, but still a strong landfall.
Let me see if I can get a run on this.
Now the
Maybe
CMC,
if I look into it further.
I want to point out, because consistently the CMC has taken the storm into land much quicker than the other models, forecasting it to happen on Sunday morning. Can you explain why, or why that might not happen?
CMC, give me a second while I load it up.
It's further south and much sooner.
For whatever reason, the CMC doesn't seem to want to load on my end.
But that's still at least a category 2 there.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, there's a JavaScript error happening. There seems to have been a fatal runtime error.
Even the navgem is going nuts with this storm into the 950s there, 951, and a landfall once again in quite a similar place just south of the border there, into the 960s at landfall, and dies off very quickly. And the icon, also very powerful, 920s, 925, and a more southern landfall there. That's one, again, is quite an early outlier. That's a Sunday afternoon landfall there, whereas the GFS currently has the landfall on Monday, around midnight actually, Sunday night into Monday morning.
Right, people should keep in mind this is Greenwich Mean Time plus 6:30, so 6.5 hours ahead of GMT.
Yeah. So that's a quick look at the models there. So from what I saw, the weakest was 960s, I think, in the CMC.
960s, and the strongest is 904 from SWRF.
So basically, I would say category 3 is pretty much assured then, based on all of that information that we've just seen.
Again, it depends on how well the models are doing compared to the shear vector. It all depends on how the upper level anticyclone that is situated to the east of Mocha evolves. How it interacts with the upper level anticyclone will decide the strength of the storm.
Yeah, the way it's going right now, it's looking quite impressive.
Yeah,
looking at more images.
Let me see if I can get newer imagery.
I'm trying to get some of the other images to load right now as well. Perry says, any rainfall projections in Myanmar and into China? Let's see. Just looking on my own monitor here. We are expecting a lot of rain in western Myanmar, but towards the east, we're still looking at around 100 to 150 millimeters up to the border and extending into a few parts of China. I don't think it's going to be particularly harsh rainfall, but up to 100 millimeters in a lot of those areas in China along the border with Myanmar. Up to 150. Now, let's actually, I do want to show you some more imagery, just to show you how interesting this storm has been looking. course, it's nighttime over the area now. I've lost visible imagery just at the moment, obviously, but take a look at this from earlier today, just a couple of hours ago. Where is it? Trying to find the right window here. There's a view from earlier on showing the storm from the Himawari 9 satellite. Look at how expansive it is there. That was earlier this evening. Latest image right now. You can see that the daylight has escaped, but I can show you the infrared. And that's what that looks like right now. The storm's influence reaching the eastern coast of India and indeed blowing up thunderstorms on the west coast as well.
Well, if it helps, I'm on the southeast coast, which is basically right on the shores of Mocha's influence. And while weather has been fairly overcast today, there hasn't been any rain. I haven't reported any rain today.
We're also now joined by another one of our esteemed cyclone trackers, Kenneth. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
You're joining us just on the other side of the Indochina landmass in Hong Kong. What's your thoughts on Cyclone Mocha this evening?
So, back when it's yesterday, when it's still back at around 45 knots based on scalerometer ship observation. It's depicted that she is decreasing until like after 12 hours. Yeah, the first intensification window is closing off right now, but it's doing well in its low shear condition. You have the microwave eye with a, if I remember correctly, around 100-kilometer wide eye based on the microwave imagery just pulled up earlier in the stream. Yeah, and I expect some contraction of it as well as it continues to intensify, and it's not far from category 1. Let me pull up some. I'll show my own forecast as well.
All right. Yep, it's looking close to category 1 at this stage.
Yeah, and this is the my teammate forecast cone, and I've depicted center at 12 north, 88 degrees east based on the latest microwave position, and it's expected to it stopped losing attitude. It is not losing longitude right now, and later on it recurs northeastward, and you can see those yellow points in category 1 point. That's where the storm is struggling because of seeing the models here. You can see the storm is moving northeast right here right now, but the shear effect is orthogonal to it, having shadows of maximum 35 knots. The factor differences.
Wow.
Just talking about the modulus difference, so the net shear is probably 25 knots or above, which is gonna make a pretty damaging for a system. Yeah, that's why the intensity pretty much based on models pretty much it's holding off because shear, but this is expected to hold for a day, around 24 hours, let's say, and start to ease after 42 hours of the forecast, and that's where the intensity is starting to pick up, as mentioned here, a little bit, and then rapidly intensify. I expect some more non-rapid intensification all the way to category 3, about one, as low as around 100 knot, I'll say the basis, whereas the higher end will be the low end cat 4, based on how well the outflow gives from jet interaction. The better it gives, then the high intensity it can get in the rapid intensification phase is a total around 24 hours. And then it is maintaining intensity or slight weakening, and it's still making landfall. Yeah, very likely, I'll say right now, to make landfall as a category 3.
Fascinating. I think that is the most likely scenario, and as a matter of fact, that's exactly what my forecast has gone with at the bottom of the screen there. So 120 mile an hour landfall. Now, we haven't really talked very much about storm surge at this point. I know that I was reading up yesterday and it was saying 1 to 2 meters. And I expect it's probably going to be a bit more than that now. Do we have any more specific information? I know that Soham, I think you sent in a big piece of text earlier on that had quite a lot of information about that.
That is correct. Yeah, it's mainly it's mainly based on exactly what to expect from the Myanmar.
Oh, we lost you? Oh, I think you're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I don't know what happened there.
So what I'm saying is, yeah, I sent in a blocker. I sent in a rather large message, which was from the most recent advisory on Mocha. And if I can find it, hold on.
Whilst we wait for that, we're just looking at the cone from, or the forecast track from Myanmar, which was sent in by Nick there. Go ahead.
So the first point which they wrote is they expect rain and thunder showers to be rather widespread, and they listed quite a few names. And forgive me, I'm not sure how to pronounce them, honestly. I know it says not.
Let me find this again.
I'll just post it in live output, so that's easier for everyone.
All right, I'll just.
There you go.
You can actually see it on the screen as well if you've got extremely good eyes. You can read it. But it says, due to the cyclonic storm Mocha, rain or thunder showers will be fairly widespread to widespread in Naypyidaw, Sagaing, Mandalay, Magway, Bago, Yangon, Ayeyarwady, Tanintai regions,
Irrawaddy, I think.
and Kachin, Shan, Chin, Rakhine, Kaya, Kayin, Mon states with regionally heavy falls in Lower Sagaing, Mandalay, Magway, Bago, Yangon. What was it again? Ayeyarwady regions and
Irrawaddy. I think it's Irrawaddy.
Ooh,
I think
Chin.
that's how you pronounce it.
Rakhine states and isolated heavy falls in Naypyidaw, Upper Sagaing region and Kachin Shan Kayin states from today noon till the 15th of May. What a mess. From today noon to the 14th, frequently squalls with rough to very rough seas will be experienced in Deltaic off and along Rakhine coasts. Surface wind speed in squalls may reach 80 to 100 miles per hour, and wave height will be around 13 to 16 feet in Deltaic off and along Rakhine coast, and occasional squalls with rough seas will be experienced in the Gulf of Matama off and along Mon Tanintai coasts. Surface wind speed in squalls may reach 40 to 45 miles per hour. Wave height will be around 9 to 12 feet in the Gulf of Matama off and along Mon Tanintai coasts. Mocha may cross the southeast Bangladesh and northern Rakhine coast between Cox's Bazar and Kyaukphyu in Myanmar. Maximum wind speed may reach 90 to 100 miles per hour, possibly more on our forecast. When crossing the cyclonic storm surge height will reach 10 to 14 feet in estuary and tributaries at Sitwe district, Maung Dao district, Rakhine state, and 7 to 10 feet in estuary and tributaries at Kyaukphyu district in Rakhine state. Apologies for all of those incorrect pronunciations, but you know, we do our best. Worldwide service and all that. and more stuff being posted into our output room there. If you have any more questions for us, we are here to help. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. We'll probably be finishing up shortly though. It's mainly just an hour's briefing on this storm right now. Obviously, we've unpacked a lot of information about it. There's still a lot of a way to go before we get towards its landfall. It is still in potentially 3 days' time, somewhere from Sunday morning to late Sunday night.
I'm sorry I couldn't get to this earlier, but we have a new microwave pass.
Oh, another one.
Posting in live output. Yeah, another one.
All right, another
There we go.
microwave pass then, and that looks quite impressive. And that clearly shows southern side being stronger, really exemplifies what you were saying earlier. But as far as that eye development, what do you think about that image?
So I first need to hunt for the low level microwave frame as well, or 37 gigahertz frequency microwave. So just give me a minute while I search for
Yeah. Perry says, are we going to code red soon? I seriously hope it doesn't go code red, but looking at what models show, it is quite likely. We'll be making another decision on that later on. We are already nearly code red in Force 13's operation status. But the colours don't really tell you everything about the storm. It's just our state of preparedness here, and how hard we're going to be working to cover this storm. We will likely enter code red soon. But we will be finishing up shortly, and then we'll direct you to our automated stream. But most likely we will have more live coverage, probably tomorrow morning, and definitely once again tomorrow evening. But in the meantime, the storm still has winds. It says 60 miles per hour there, but our team have just updated it this hour to 70 miles per hour. That's around 110 kilometers per hour with higher gusts and an estimated central pressure of 983 millibars.
I see one question. It's asking, how does Mocha compare to Nargis? There's one major difference. The ridging that the storm is under does not support an eastward movement, a straight horizontal eastward movement into Irrawaddy at the moment. It and the fact that the storm will most likely go more northeast. It'll as most guidance is predicting, it's between Cox's Bazar and Sitwe. So that's two major areas of difference.
The subtropical ridge was north of the cyclone, but in this case, the subtropical ridge is on the east of the system. So that's why the chances are unlikely.
Anything else you would like to add, Kenneth, before we start wrapping up here?
So this system is strengthening steadily right now. So although she is gonna damp the system between day 1 and 2, and we have to note that the jet interaction can change everything of the storm. The rapid intensification is pretty scary to 32 degrees Celsius water and the excellent outflow. It could well above this intensity, but this the likely high still. And at this point, at this level of pretty much 3-digit not cycle, very destructive. You expect storm surge like 2.5 meters higher, 3 meters higher, which in these low-lying areas and because of the terrain mass, it basically is a slope here, right? This will cause very serious topographic rainfall and the storm surge, much very severe flooding and on low-lying areas. So in some areas, Bangladesh, Myanmar. So the main impact is pretty much still water impact. Is very serious. So yeah, get into high ground and pretty much as the storm approaches around day 1 or 2, start to stop water activities as well, and yet get prepared stage or pretty much when the storm approaches on Sunday.
A couple more questions there before we go. Jello says, is a recurvature towards India not ruled out, and chance of India landfall?
Chances it is virtually certain to be a no, because as the system progresses, and with the model showing a very high consensus in how the synoptic setup is, so in the large image, it's pretty much gonna curve northeastward and strike Myanmar and some parts of Bangladesh, and the chances of landfall in India becomes very low.
All right, Trin, final thoughts? Oh.
Because the cyclone is going to landfall on the Sito area, which is where there's many creek and shallow river creek is there, so it could causes storm surges up to even 15 meter that was seen in the 2004 on a similar type of cyclone. So people need to be very careful and watch the system very closely, I think.
All right, thanks very much, team, for taking part on today's stream. We appreciate it. My name is Nathan Foy here in the studio, and it was nice to bring to you the latest on Mocha. Of course, we'll have a lot more besides to cover with this, with more live coverage on the way probably in the morning, and definitely once again in the evening tomorrow. In the meantime, we'll have regular updates on our YouTube channel and across social media. Make sure you follow us there. And we'll now throw you to our automated live stream, which will show you all of the latest satellite imagery, automatically updating, so you'll be completely up to date. And I'll be heading over there in a little while to update all of the numbers on there as well. Until next time, which will be fairly soon, it's a good night from us here at Force 13, and stay safe ahead of this storm. It is on the way. Good night.